Jason Smith. Hey, yo, what's poppin'? It's Chad from, what am I, Comic Core Chad? Whatever the case may be. We're going to do a little bit of a review on a new DVD that came out recently, initially released in May 9th, 2019 to the box office. It grossed $32.4 million USD. Budget was about $12 million, and they needed it because what if a child from another world crash landed on Earth, but instead of becoming a hero to mankind, he provided to be something more, far more sinister. With Brightburn, the visionary filmmaker of the Guardians of the Galaxy and Slither, presents a startling, subversive take on a radical new genre, superhero horror. Basically, what if Clark Kent landed in Nebraska and he went bad? What's going on there, Kat?
Hey, I've been super excited to talk about this film. Definitely. I originally did a review of this on Cinema Figures, and I was really excited to see if this actually held up. You know, because a lot of times when you see a film in theaters, you're just kind of pumped. You know, it's this, it's that. It's actually just the air of being in theater. But is a film going to survive that rewatch at home? Is it still going to capture the same feelings? Are you still going to be as immersed in the film? And I will tell you, this film holds up for me. I love it throughout. I feel like the best part of this entire film is definitely the creepy little kid actor in this. He is fantastic. For the most part, all of the children that are immersed in this, all the child actors are pretty great.
No, the movie overall is great. But before we start diving into the movie itself, let's dive into the chat. We got Chris Barrett, who's always the first. He just got done watching that boxing match. Old Wolf 65. We've got Kat Wren in there and Jason Smith, Comic Man Andy. I saw Comics Misexplained. He said he'd have to watch this on the rewind because he didn't get to watch the show yet. But coming on Saturday, him and Kat Wren are doing a retrospect or a review or a live stream watching of the Endgame movie. So
full commentary.
I had one question from the chat, and I'm going to put it up there. It is, what's Mark eating?
Cotton candy grapes.
Frozen.
Cotton
candy grapes.
It's like
Frozen.
nature's own little popsicle there. So, Brightburn, where to start? Let's say a spaceship lands to a barren couple. They come upon it, and lo and behold, there's a baby inside it. Stop me if this sounds familiar. At any point, you can stop me if it sounds familiar. So the family then takes a spaceship, they hide it underneath a barn, they raise the kid as their own. Now comes the question. Is he going to be the Superman that we know? Or is he going to be something completely else? And it gets really strange, but I don't want to jump ahead of it. The weirdest interaction is him and his Lois Lane.
Yeah.
I mean, him and a little girl are super creepy, but I just, two's a couple, but three times maybe somebody else who might have watched the movie wants to join us. What do you think, Kat?
Maybe.
So we've got a horror fanatic himself. Rob, what's going on?
What's going on, guys?
Just going to do a little bit of a talk about Brightburn and what your thoughts were.
Do you want me to go ahead and just give my thoughts from the get-go here, or what?
Well, here's where we're at right now. And you can stop me if you heard this before. Joke never gets old, right? A spaceship lands in a barren couple finds a baby inside the spaceship. They take the baby back. They hide the spaceship. And now we're trying to figure out if the kid's going to be raised up to be your all American-loving superhero, or is he going to be something twisted? And with James Gunn, I think we're going to go the twisted direction.
Well, yeah. Based on what you were sitting there saying, I'm looking behind you. I see all these Superman images, and it just makes me think that it's one of those moments where you're thinking 1938, Kansas, everything else, and all of a sudden, no, we're talking about Nebraska, we're talking about Elizabeth Banks, we're talking about the evil boyfriend from The Office, and some little punk kid that decides he just wants to use his heat ray vision on everybody.
And the funny thing about this, I have a conspiracy theory. I mean, not a conspiracy theory. I have a theory on the ending and what universe this actually plays part in. So I'm going to let Kat take it from this point.
All right. So, of course, we see the boy as, he starts off and he's a good kid. He's hanging out with his mom. I mean, the relationship between him and his mama bear it's a sweet one. He's a mama's boy, let's be honest. And then he starts to hit puberty, kind of. And that's basically when his powers start to show up.
And I had a similar incident, I did. Like, I'll tell you, like, the best day of my life was the day that I found my dad's porno collection.
The worst day. I know this joke.
And the worst day was when I found my mom's porno collection. So, but I mean, this little kid's porno collection was super cool at first, and then it got super weird.
It's Victoria's Secret, and then it's like Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
And then it's like, that he cut open a frog and took some pictures.
And then
serial killery.
But it doesn't end there. He starts to here's an image of the little kid, and then he's going the Breaking Bad route. But all in all, the kid is seriously fucked up. I mean, there's no, and I didn't like the relationship with him and Elizabeth Banks.
You didn't?
No, I thought that was fucking creepy too. Like,
she was definitely very protective of him.
Helicopter parent.
Yeah, but I'm talking maybe a little bit too.
He definitely had like an Oedipus complex. Absolutely. I think that he realized that his mom was attractive.
I thought he had a thing for his mom the whole entire time.
Is that why he went after the girl with the purple streak in her hair?
I never noticed.
I'm just saying the mom has a purple streak in her hair. The girl had one in her hair.
I didn't realize that until just now. Holy shit. Well, no, it probably had something. But then he went after her, and then her mom said, "No, it can't happen." Right?
I feel like there was a lot that led up to that, though.
Well, okay.
Yeah, your son's super creepy. He's like sitting outside my daughter's window. Somehow he's able to get to the window without a ladder. I mean, I don't know what's going on there.
He's breaking into her room in the middle of the night and scaring her, Oh, and then there's the part where he crunched her hand. That scene made me flinch so hard. Like,
I've never crunched a girl's hand, but I flicked their bras back in middle school.
Okay, well, there's a difference between being
I still got in-school suspension for doing that shit.
A girl's hand, because it's not that he just like crushes it and breaks a finger. He doesn't. He probably breaks all the fingers, and then he breaks the bone right here, and you see it all happen.
So, Kat, you're basically saying that this is Zack Snyder's Superman? Is that what's going on here?
It gets a little dark.
Rough.
So at this point, the mom says, the girl's mom says, "You can't see this. Keep your son away from my daughter." And
tells your daughter not to talk to him. She wouldn't
And
press charges.
then the kid gets pissed. He gets super pissed, and I don't know, maybe shows up at her work and fucking kills her.
Yeah. So can I talk about like at this point when the girl's mom is at work, like they decided to just go like jump scare, like super like, hey, here's a piece of glass, we're gonna make sure that it's in the eye, even though there's no reason for it at all in this movie except for like, okay, this is super creepy, and disgusting looking, let's make sure that it's like right in the eyeball. And mom doesn't scream when she pulls it out. She's like super badass about it. She's like, oh, this is nothing. Let me just
It's,
right back.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't think I'd do that.
you got to get it out.
I looked at Mark
You
and I
gotta
asked
get
him,
out.
well, would it be worse to take it out, or should you leave it in and call like someone to take it out for you? Because when I had my cat scratch my eye and my eye was bleeding, I went to the emergency room.
Yeah, and
That's how I am about eyes. Eyes
You
are,
could have
eyes are
got
very
feline
sensitive.
AIDS. You could have got
she's
AIDS that
just
way.
like, let me go ahead and just get this
She just
thing out of here.
yanked it out
and-
like a champ.
And
And
then,
it zooms in and everything. There's blood everywhere.
but from that cinematic perspective, when they take the camera and now the camera is her eye, and then the
Mhm.
red film comes
Blood
over.
across it.
Oh my god! I was like, why is she holding her eye? What? Like, I want to see where the fuck this kid is.
That was like literally like out of a 70s horror film, you know, like,
was
like
really
it's like,
good.
oh, let's see what kind of effect we can really use here. Oh, we'll go first person and we'll do it from the other perspective. It was super grossing, and you know, like it's funny for me for the film, I felt like, you know, you had this super character genre with like horror and everything, and then they just went, oh, we're gonna gross you out now.
Yeah, I mean, there was another movie that Gunn did. My God, what was it? It was
Slither?
the Belko project.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
that was a
I
good
mean,
one.
when I was watching this movie, and I'm not going to jump, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I was like, "Where's Rooker? Where's Rooker?" And then he shows up at the end. I was pumped.
You could sit there and say that. You could say, hey, where's Nathan Fillion? You could sit there, you know, I mean, like you're just going, okay, where are all of his little cameos? Where are they?
So, yeah, and there's a all right. I'm not going to jump ahead. I tend to do that. So, Gak, keep us on the rails. This is your show.
All right. So, I'll tell you one scene that we kind of skipped over when we jumped ahead to mom was him actually going to apologize to his Lois Lane, or at least like his idea of an apology, when he once again just enters into her bedroom at night and he's talking to her, and clearly this girl is very scared of him. I mean, he's just destroyed her arm and she's trembling, and he tells her that he brought her flowers and that he found out something recently, that he's very special. And he's kind of like, I'm going to take care of you, and, you know, you're going to like it. So, and she's still trembling. And the only thing that she can come up with is her mom told her that she wasn't allowed to talk to him. He's like, I'll take care of her too. And then he goes and he kills her mom.
Well, remember, this is like right after the scene where the dad is like, hey, it's okay for boys to have these feelings about girls too. So, and of course, this is after they find the dissection pictures, and it's like, it's okay for you to have these feelings about girls, and it's like, it's okay to dissect women. Like, what is going on here?
I feel like though she's definitely his trophy. I feel like if one human makes it out of this series, since I do believe it's going to be continued, I feel like it's going to be the girl, just because he needs someone to keep him company, whether she wants to be there or not.
So Kat, you made an interesting statement saying that it's his Lois Lane. Now, how do we know it's not his Lana Lang here in Smallville?
It could be. It could be, but I mean, this is his Girl Friday right now, and at the time when Clark Kent's a young man, I mean, Lana Lang was where it was at for a
Then
hot second there, and then you grow up, he could get bored with her and find someone else and just dissect her the way he did her mom.
So it's not like Chloe, where all of a sudden he actually joins like a sex ring or something, right? From Smallville.
yeah, he didn't have any other friends except for
That's the weird thing about him. He has zero friends.
he had his mom.
She was the only one that like was nice to him. She's like, it's okay. Smart guys rule the world. And then it's like, oh, all right, so she's perfect. That's kind of how this whole thing starts because she was nice to him.
Poor girl. I mean, she didn't even see it coming. Literally. Like nobody did. And then but the dad, like, he had some sense. He's like, hon, this fucking kid's whacked out of his mind. He's nuts. Especially after the slaughtering of the chickens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was game over after that. What's that, Kat? You had something to say.
One thing that really bugs me about the adults in this film, especially his parents, is the fact that they've known this kid his entire life. They've known him since he was a baby. Yes, he came from the sky. No, they don't know anything really about him, but they've raised him. This is their son. Or an extension like his aunt and uncle. This is their nephew. They've known him. They're family. And I feel like the dad is very quick to just turn against him. And I feel like even his aunt and uncle, they're just kind of like, hey. And there's a scene later on where he shows up at his aunt's house at night. And I'm telling you right now, the way the uncle handled that scene, that's how I would have handled it. I wouldn't have been like the aunt who just kind of tells him, okay, you need to go home right now. No, I'd be like, get your ass in the car. We're going home. Like, let's all be happy that I'm only going to be telling your parents, and you're going to get in trouble with them.
And then he was smart enough to set it up that when he kills the the uncle, that he was drinking and driving.
He was drinking.
But I mean, come on, everybody hated this kid at some point. The kid freaked him out. I mean, there are kids like that in the world. Like when you're around them, you're like, this kid's gonna fucking kill somebody someday.
Now, it did seem really odd to me, though, that like the kid seemed perfectly fine until all of a sudden he started hearing the weird sounds from the
ship.
From the shed, yeah. All of a sudden it's like he was just drawn to it and kept like being hypnotized by it or whatever. And of course, the parents went to go find him, and there he is, just like sleepwalking, but yet trying to bust open, and get to the spaceship, like what that's something that they like explored like very quickly and then left it alone.
The thing I think that they should have explained a bit more, that I think kind of explains it, is he just had his birthday. So I think he's starting to hit puberty now. And I think that he's kind of been programmed, or maybe even the ship's been programmed, that once he reaches a certain age, it's going to kick into either some sort of training or some sort of a like reset for his brain, like, hey, you're supposed to be taking over. You become acclimated to this population. Now you are supposed to control it.
So that's a really good take on it. The other thing that I keep thinking about, the writer in me constantly sitting there going, well, if Superman came to this planet and he's a complete douchebag tool, what the fuck's Zod gonna be like when he comes to Earth? Like, because that there's the one in the Phantom Zone that's just like everybody else, except he wants you to kneel.
Yeah.
So imagine if Superman is this. And by the way, I was a huge fan of the show Krypton, and they played this angle where Brainiac actually took Jor-El and they were getting ready to, like, with season 3, they were supposed to have this moment that made it look like in like Russia that like some dad with his kid on a farm, all of a sudden, don't get into fights, don't do this, and then all of a sudden, like the other kid that he was fighting is supposed to use his heat ray vision on him, and you find out that was Jor-El, and he goes and he tells his dad, Brainiac, hey, really sorry about doing that, and Brainiac's like, never apologize for showing power, or something like that. And that was supposed to be like in the first episode of season 3 that they just canceled. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, like, that's totally like the Brightburn effect, except using the actual characters from Superman to do that.
I can see that. Now, the one thing that bothered me that was the biggest plot hole, in my opinion, it took 3 deaths and 1 horrible maiming in order for anybody to call 911 about a kid with superpowers and, like, a short temper.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time, like, you killed your uncle? Okay. Honey, this hurt him. Let's kill him. Like, when he goes out to the ship, and the ship is from his home planet or whatever, obviously the material, kryptonite, so that did some damage to it. And that plays a big part in the death of his mama.
Yeah.
So the dad takes him out to the country to go camping. After they find out that he kills his uncle. They're just the 2 of us. We're gonna take you out to the country. We're gonna
work through these issues, son. It's gonna be okay. Son.
Do you think she knew that he was gonna try to kill him?
No.
Yes.
No.
I see. I didn't.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think that in this moment, the Elizabeth Banks character is thinking he really does want to reconcile, and knows that the kid is a lot more powerful than them, so it's best to be on his good side here.
Yeah, go smell the flowers.
Yeah.
And then, bam, shoots him in the back of the head. Nothing happens. Kid kills his dad.
Like, the sad thing is the dad's just like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. When he could have just said, hey, I missed that deer in the background of you, like, it's over there. Didn't you see it? Your special vision powers and everything.
That's not going to work. Honestly, like anyone who knows guns, who knows hunting, you never fire when someone's in front of you. That's a recipe.
Yeah, you beat me to it, Dick Cheney.
You never fire when someone's in front of you, and I'm sure the boy knows this.
And if you guys want a lesson on shooting guns, there over on Catron Figures, there is an early video of a young cat shooting guns or pooty things. Poo poo. We can't say gun. We'll get demonetized.
It was yeah.
So Bear Island says, "Hey, is that Rob guy from the one time? Good to see you, man." Yeah, it is the Rob guy from the one time, and he's staying with us in Baltimore. So he's cuddling with you. He already he listened to your song. He found out that you were
free for cuddles.
And then he then reminded me that Cat is young. So
I will point out that the thing that really sold me on this trip was the fact that Chad was mentioning that there is going to be like cosplay karaoke, and I definitely, as long as I still have a voice at that point, will be partaking in the karaoke. Not so sure about the cosplay, but
yeah, well,
we're gonna paint you orange, and we're gonna stick a red wig on you. You're gonna be Starfire.
Hey, we've got people that are willing to do the makeup. We have people that are
false eyelashes on you. You're gonna look great.
If I can just wear one of those fiend masks, Chad, I'm totally down.
I think we can make that happen. We might know somebody, right? Chad?
As a huge fan of your next door neighbor, you may notice me sitting outside like the kid from Brightburn not too long from now.
Bear Island Comics Cat. Everyone will be
yeah. So
everyone being Starfire is great as long as it's not the girl that actually plays it on Titans, because she's like the one part of the show that I'm not a big fan of.
I think they went out of their way to make a very attractive woman look very cheap.
Well, I mean, we have another person that's going to join us later because he didn't watch the movie and he didn't want to bring it. So Legend wants to talk about some other stuff, and I think that's one of them. Really cool bit of news, though. I did talk to Chuck Lowe of Comics today. He's got some really, really cool interviews coming up this weekend, really centered around the Crisis.
Okay.
Over on the WB. So stay tuned to watch Chuck Lowe of Comics. I think he is interviewing. I know he's interviewing 2 Supermen that will be on that show.
So can I ask a quick question about that? Like,
Yeah.
I was already assuming that Tom Welling had signed on for quote unquote 5 episodes, and I had heard this like 2 years ago, and now it's like, is he? Isn't he?
No, he is. He's in.
And even now the talk is that Michael Rosenbaum might actually show up as well. And I would love to see him as Alexander Luthor, the good guy Lex Luthor, not the bad guy Lex Luthor.
We're going to jump back on that here in a little bit. I want to finish up this because I got a lot to say about the Crisis.
Absolutely.
If you don't mind.
Just a quick reference to the chat, Comic Book Lurkers. It is out on Blu-ray and DVD currently.
People still have
Brightburn.
DVD players?
I guess.
I'm kidding.
I mean, Blu-ray, DVD, and digital. Yeah.
We couldn't find it in VHS.
And there's somebody I haven't seen in a while. Awesome. Brett has some art.
Laser discs.
He says, just got here. Love Brightburn. What did you guys think?
Exactly what I expected it to be.
Overall, I loved it. I do not like the fact that they're categorizing this as superhero horror, right?
It's just super horror, right?
Yeah, it's like a new genre that they're talking about. But the problem that I had overall with the movie was, I obviously it was the relationship with the mom and nobody calling anybody. But when the kid finally breaks bad, I mean, he fucks up everybody. There's no getting around it. And at super speeds, when he is tearing down that house, I'm telling you what, holy shit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I felt that like the action in the movie was actually extremely well done for such what seemed like a low budget. My favorite scene probably of the entire film though is the very not the very end, after credits or anything, but there's this moment where he's just sitting there next to an entire and I don't want to really ruin it, but he's just sitting there next to an entire thing of destruction and he's like eating ice cream or whatever, and you're led to believe, wow, it missed him. It's like,
I mean, so Kat, do you want to take us through the mom's death and then I'll jump in with my spoiler?
So something that we always see from Superman properties, be it animated or even live action, there's always a sequence where Superman flies up through something with, his villain or what have you, or even someone that he's trying to shield, but you never see that person really get damaged during this. They always seem like they're shielded. Mom, on the other hand, Mama Bear just tried to kill Brandon, and so he was over the whole Mama Bear relationship, and he goes through the roof of their barn, and she's just getting cut up through everything, and you just see her. She's drenched in blood. She's looking at her son, pleading for him, and he lets her go.
And she falls a very long way.
So it's not just symbolic. It's actually just the whole, hey, I'm finally my own man, and I really am embracing my newfound abilities.
Absolutely. But
just very iconic image there.
But then he looks down and says, "You know what? Screw it. I need to take this plane and put it through my house." And the only person that survives is this little whack job
Yep.
eating his cookie. Now, this is where my conspiracy theory comes through.
Okay.
It's Homelander.
No, I am.
That would be amazing.
That would be awesome. But I actually think
Thank you.
James Gunn is going to pull a glass on us.
Oh, God, I hope not.
Because if you look during that scene, as many of the superheroes, okay, there's a post credit scene, and Michael Rooker comes on, and he's playing a character named Big T, who's positioned as a YouTube conspiracy theorist, and
sounds about right.
There's superpower. He's talking about these other superpowered heroes other than this little kid. And if you look, you'll get a glimpse of a character who looks an awful lot like a hero named the Crimson Bolt. He's talking about two other characters, a woman and a fish guy, but the character, the Crimson Bolt, is the lead character in James Gunn's 2010 super movie who stars Rainn Wilson.
Oh boy.
Wow.
And Rainn Wilson has no powers. He's basically this down on your luck guy who gets a Robin who's a whack job teenager who ends up raping him. Yes, that happened.
So Chad, I think
just put that together.
You're
Chris
kind of
Barrett's
on
gonna
to
get
something. It does seem like this film actually is meant to be like a trilogy of super horror films. At the same time, though, I think that he just threw everything he could into it, even though it was written by like his brother or his cousin, or it was like just everybody else except for James Gunn really worked on this movie. James Gunn was just like, here, throw my name on it so that way Sony doesn't get sued for like infringement from Warner Brothers or whatever. But yes, it did seem like this is totally going to be about the worst possible Injustice League that you could come up with, and they just beat the boys to air more than anything else.
Yeah. Yep. But I mean, it's gonna go down a path, and like it did well enough. They've already announced that there's a sequel. My concern is, when is he gonna be able to do it? And he wasn't the head writer on it. It was his brother, Brian, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was his brother, and I think like I said, like his cousin or somebody is actually like the director of it. So he just produced it. So this is going to be one of those things where like kind of like how Joss Whedon did, the Cabin in the Woods.
Brian Gunn and Mark Gunn.
Yeah. So it's like two brothers, and then James went, "Hey, here's the money to go make that movie. Make it happen."
But you and I were talking about it earlier. How did this movie even get made?
I don't know how it got past the whole this isn't like copyright infringement. I mean, and the only thing that I can think of there is that Warner Brothers said, "Okay, James, you went a little far on this one, so why don't you make a movie for us now, and we'll just let it go." Because that's really what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just seems too much Superman. My problem was it was completely opposite of the Superman. Was that I thought it was more on the realms of Joe Stephen King's son,
Joe Hill.
Joe Hill's Cape, and they had a lot of similar deaths. A lot of basically, instead of a kid being, it's basically Superman grown up. But the similarities was this red cape he dressed like the kid in the book. He just had a red cape on. That was the only difference. And he wore a hood and he killed people. and the cape gave him his powers. So obviously the kid is bound to take on the world, but I want to see the franchise continue. I'd like to see it. I enjoyed it. I'm vested in it. I thought it was I'll give it 2 thumbs up. This way.
Well, I mean, from me, I can tell you, I absolutely enjoyed the film. It was exactly what I expected it to be. When I saw the first trailer, somebody pointed it out to me on Facebook or something. They said, "Rob, you really need to check this out. It looks really cool." And then I watched it, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's the Superman origin!" And at the same time, it's a horror movie. So, like, how did they get away with that? Because even the music in that first trailer sounded like it was Hans Zimmer music from like Batman versus Superman, or even Man of Steel, and I was like, how did they get away with this? Like, this is just way too similar.
This guy here is going to give you an opinion worth. Okay, whatever.
Hi, Drew.
I haven't done anything yet. Don't get all worked up, Chad.
Say hi to Rob.
Hi, Rob. Nice to meet you.
How's it going?
It's going. I would say peachy, but I'm eating pears. They're fancy.
Wait. Put your pinky out when you're eating those.
They are dried fancy pears. That's
only the finest from the Comic Corp.
Oh, Drew, before you start, why don't you show off that fantastic shirt you're wearing?
Oh man, this is a
Super
Grover. I got it at our T Public store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comic Corp.
Yeah.
like
Press your friends.
Drew, did you see what it says at the bottom?
Yes.
Like nobody can see that. I put it in there the same exact color.
It's beautiful.
It says anytime you I forget what it says. Whatever.
It was the original meme.
Yeah. So
if I could read upside down, I'd tell you what it says.
What's your thoughts on Brightburn? And then we're going to dive into some other things here in a second.
I think I have a unique take on it. I'm not really a horror movie guy. They don't really do much for me in the way that, nothing scares me enough to really get me going. Jump scares are like startling, but they don't really do anything for me. The eerie is kind of, lost on me. Gore, hey man, that's pretty funny to me. So I went into this not expecting to like it as much as I ended up liking it. Maybe the superhero elements, which I am a huge fan of, did something to help me there. But I thought that it was genuinely creepy in the way it came off. And there's some good kills. And, it seems like it hit all those horror buttons that horror people like. And it hit all those superhero allegory elements that the superhero nerds like. So I'm surprised it's not got a higher rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I really enjoyed it. That was a great movie.
Kat?
All right, so we do know that I do love me some comics. So the superheroes definitely, get pushed a little bit ahead in my book. But I also do love some horror. So I'll tell you, I went into this and I was excited, but I was very reserved because a lot of times when you see, certain horror films that are really hyped up, you think they're going to be amazing, and then you watch them in theaters and they just kind of let you down. But this film, throughout, I loved it. It didn't have to go so much with like the jump scares that a lot of other ones go for. It had that creepy factor. Even just the scenes of seeing him in the mask just standing there, just staring at you, was just eerie. Him having to constantly put his little trademark everywhere, the two B's on everything, was a really good way of him saying like, oh yeah, I killed this person. This is me claiming it. But I will tell you, the gore was pretty well done for me. I did like the creepy factor. I think I'm the only person that actually liked the mother-son relationship in this because
I dug it. I thought Elizabeth Banks was really good.
the helicopter mom, I thought it was perfect for this, especially a kid that was like really sheltered and really close to his mom.
Well, and a lot of it had to do with the fact
Expect
that she couldn't have her own, so it was
Really
like her
bad.
miracle baby was like, you know, anybody who
Still
knows a
not-
mother
was-
knows that kind of relationship is
Yeah, they weren't gonna take that child away from her no matter what.
right.
But I loved it. Very happy that this actually holds up from theater to home video rewatch. I still love it. I still think it's fantastic. Mark, what did you think?
He liked it.
He liked it. He's eating ice cream.
He's like Mikey. Mikey's
Is it fancy ice cream, Mark?
It is fancy ice cream.
Where's
Oh,
it
is it
from?
the toffee
Good.
ice cream?
Yeah, it's the peanut butter chocolate ice cream.
Ah, okay. He is eating fancy ice cream.
You get that less than fancy ice cream the fuck out of here. That's all I'm saying. I don't got time for that shit.
Movie was great though.
What the funniest part of being at the theater?
What?
There was a dad who brought his young son to see the movie. First off, it's rated R. I have this thing, which I know it drives Mark nuts, but as soon as I see a kid in a rated R horror movie, it pisses me off. And I'm just like, why is there a kid here? Why is there a child here? You couldn't have a babysitter? Like
Maybe that kid's dad is
it was
totally
a little
badass.
kid. It was a little kid. And
Now, hold on a second.
all I heard as soon as the movie was over was like, "What is this? Like, this isn't child friendly. Like, this isn't appropriate." He's like, "I thought this was supposed to be a superhero movie." No, just running his mouth, and it's just like, dude, you brought him to a rated R film. You saw that it said rated R on the ticket. You saw that it said rated R outside the theater, and you saw all the trailers. You're telling me you didn't check out a single one of the trailers, which, yes, I do know some parents who they raise their kids on horror. That's great if you raise your children on horror. I wasn't, unfortunately, but, I kind of made up for that when I was a teenager sneaking around watching horror films. But I feel like I would handle my own kids with a little bit of, like, kid gloves, maybe ease them in with like Banicula, Goosebumps, things like that. I don't
Junior high horrors.
Right. Exactly. Junior high horrors.
Barn of the Blood Llama.
Shameless plug, but
I spit on your grave.
Book.
Spit on your grave.
Things like this I feel might be a little scary for a kid, which I think the kid was maybe like 6.
Maybe.
I don't think I'd take a 6-year-old to see this. That's just me. I'm an aunt. I'm not a mom. I would not take one of my nieces or my nephew to go see this. Maybe if they were like 9 or 10 and we talked about it beforehand, but I would not take a 6-year-old to see this. That being said, I loved this movie.
Now, I just have to chime in a little bit there.
Okay.
You know, obviously, writing an all-ages horror parody, I guess I'm the expert on this. I've been to signings where parents have brought all their kids at like horror conventions up to us, and immediately the 3-year-old being held by mom sits there and goes, "Can I get the one that has Michael Myers on the cover?" And you're just like, how does that 3-year-old know who Michael Myers is? But then the parent looks right at them and goes, "I'm so proud of you. Yes, you absolutely can have that cover with Michael Myers on it." At the same time, one of the most creepy things that I actually saw was as Junior High Horrors was getting ready to launch at San Diego, we had a little girl walk up to us and go, "Are the twins from The Shining going to make an appearance?" And it's like, how do you know who they are? Like, you are too young to know. And she's like, "They're my favorite." You know? And I'm just blown away by that moment. And I'm like, okay, yes, they will show up at some point, and they do. But I totally agree with you, Kat. I think that there's no reason why a 6-year-old should be brought to this movie, because it's not a superhero movie. As Chad and I have discussed, it is now a super horror movie, which is in and of itself a brand new genre that I guess Mark and Brian Gunn have coined, and James Gunn has reaped the benefits of. at the same time, I thought the film was exactly what I thought it was going into it, which is great because by the second trailer, I already knew what was going to happen in the film, and yet I still wanted to see it. So it did exactly what it was supposed to, and it got me hyped up to where I paid for the film, enjoyed it, and it was even able to now have a discussion about it after the fact that other people also enjoyed.
Well, this is a good transition point because we're talking about little kids. Let's talk about the brainwashed youth in America, Walt Disney, and how they do it. And let's talk about the Disney experience that's going on this weekend. It kind of coincides with a little bit of an announcement from Sony, and let's talk about the Sony deal. And this week, starting tomorrow morning, is D23. D23 is going to start tomorrow off. It's going to 10:30 p.m. 10:30 a.m. It's going to be Disney Legends. At 12:30, we're going to have the music and sounds of Star Wars Galaxy Edge. 3 p.m. is the Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. panel. At 3:30, it's going to be the Disney Plus presentation showcasing content from Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, National Geographic, and much, much more. Saturday morning, we have Walt Disney Studios, including Marvel Studios. So does a deal happen by then?
Before we even get into that, did anybody else see the information from Stanley's daughter saying that both Sony and Marvel have never taken great care of her dad, and yet the stories about her have been that she exploited her dad for like the last 15 years while he really couldn't take care of himself?
I did not see that article.
So yeah, it's pretty baffling that she's now sitting there saying that the executives were all pretty rough on her dad for as many years as they were, and yet most people say that she actually was doing everything she could to just take all of his money.
Well, I mean, she was trying to get him to sign some kind of thing when he was like hardly even moving, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I listened to her as far as I can throw her, but nonetheless, I mean, Spider-Man is leaving the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but the update is that Sony thinks it'll be fine without Feige, but both parties have to agree to the terms. Now, most recently, Sony is reporting that they were may have been willing to give up roughly 25% of the franchise to keep Feige in. Let's, from what I'm being told is that, or what I've read, Feige's been involved in all the Spider-Man movies from the get-go of Tobey Maguire when he was under Ava. What was his name? Abby
Feige was
Arad?
not involved with the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Neither of those two. But he was a production assistant under Avi Arad.
Okay. But, I mean, at this point, I've read the contract, and Spider-Man, all properties, Marvel owns the majority of the properties, except for the film distribution.
Yeah. From what I've read over the past, I don't know, like 2-3 years, is that Marvel actually didn't own much of Spider-Man at one point, and then when Sony went through a really tough time, they sold back everything except the film movie rights, which included all the merchandising rights, which is why Marvel stepped in and said that they were cool with making the movies at, I believe, 0%, because they were going to make all of the merchandising. 5%, is that what it was?
5%.
So, but they would make everything on the merchandising side from the films, be able to make the comic adaptations, everything else, make money off of all of that, and Sony got to keep everything from the film side. Now, it worked out for everybody because, as we know, that deal was actually, I believe, when Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, and that deal basically got them like, it was like $750 million at the box office, but the movie cost about 270, and then the advertising cost them a bunch more. So they ended up doing better than break even, $250 million or so, but not to the point where like the Marvel movies when they first started, Iron Man got made for like $130 million and ended up making like $450 million kind of thing. So it was pretty interesting reading all this, and now Marvel's basically like, hey, even though we're supposed to technically have one more solo Spider-Man movie in the franchise and area and everything, we want to go ahead and renegotiate now.
Yeah,
Well,
makes sense. They made Sony $1 billion.
Sony stock dropped since this was announced.
Here's the deal: is people didn't go see Far From Home because it was a Spider-Man movie. They went and they saw it because it's an MCU movie. They went and they saw it because we're gonna figure out what happened after the snap. Right? We're going to figure out what happened there. They went and they saw it because it's the follow-up to the biggest movie in the history of the world, Endgame.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the biggest movie ever. This is the follow-up story to that.
It was essentially an after credit scene. Extended.
It was you know what? It was a great Spider-Man story that happened to be the epilogue to what they've been doing for the last 20 years or 15 years or whatever.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're 100% right.
And that was the deal. They went to renegotiate because they were like, hey, Sony, good on us. Look what we did for you. Look what we did for you. And then the response from Sony was that, okay, we'll give you 5% of the opening weekend, which is a slap in the face. If you're going back to the negotiating table, and Marvel walked away from it immediately because it was a ridiculous offer. Marvel went to them. I believe the original offer was a 50-50 deal with 50-50 production cost and advertising, all of that 50-50 split, 50-50 down the line on profits. It's everything, half of everything as the cost and the benefit, right? The cost and the profit, but also allowing Sony as well to get away with more story-wise. They were going to allow them production right, basically. That means your Silver and Black movie they wanted to do. That would be happening. Folding Venom into the MCU, that would be happening. These are the things that would be happening for Sony, and Sony doesn't realize that within a decade they're going to belong to Disney wholesale anyway. Like
that's the only thing that I don't think will happen.
It will happen eventually. They're buying up everybody, and they're buying.
I don't think the government would let.
The mouse has some pretty deep pockets.
I doubt it though, because the government at that point would literally step in and say this is a monopoly.
But it isn't. Well, it wouldn't be a monopoly because the way that the movie studios work is they didn't buy Fox Sports. They didn't buy all of Fox News. They didn't buy any of that. They bought Fox movie studios and television properties. These are still giant companies without their movie studios and their television. The Sony makes shit off of movies. They make their money selling televisions and electronics. That's where they make their money at. Like Sony makes small electronics and computing equipment that's used all over Asia, all over Europe, all over Africa, shit that doesn't even make it to our shores. They're a giant company. At a certain point, the money that they're spending on these things, it's just not going to be worth it. The only reason that Sony is fighting this is because they got big in their britches because they had $1 million movie. They're like, we can do $1 million movie. And Feige's looking at him like, no, dude, I just did that $1 million movie and put your name on it. Like, that's what happened. Screech did the paper. Zach put his name on the top,
Yeah, it seemed that the only part of that Sony's got any say in is the fact that they made Venom, which did what, $750 million.
God, that movie is a piece of garbage.
Yeah, it's not exactly Iron Man 3 in terms of how much hot garbage it actually is, but
no, Iron Man 3 is a good movie. Rewatch it.
No, it's got probably the best actors in it, but it's definitely not the best movie. I mean,
here's the deal:
if
you go into Iron Man 3 not expecting to watch an Iron Man movie, but expecting to watch a Shane Black movie, you'll be very, very, very happy with it.
I mean, I like Shane Black movies, but at the same time, I don't like, when adults badmouth kids throughout the entire film and can make it all up just by buying them something at the end.
But that's how parenting works.
As you can tell, I'm an uncle, not a parent. So
No, I'm a father. That's how parenting works.
Now,
You get the inside track on that.
but the other thing regarding this contract itself, the Spider-Man, though, Disney Marvel owns the TV rights.
Right. So they can do a Spider-Man TV show.
So does that mean
And
they put
they
Tom
also-
Holland on Disney Plus?
Quite
I
possibly.
mean, but they also don't. Disney also owns certain names, and we talked about this last night. Like they can make us. Hey, you know what? Let's change him into Scarlet Spider. Drew had the best point. Listen, he got revealed at the end of Spider-Man as Peter Parker, but guess what? At the end of Iron Man 1, Tony reveals, I am Iron Man. So put him in an Iron Man suit and keep him in there. Make him in the Iron Lad.
I thought
He can
the
turn into
biggest
Kang the
joke I saw
Conqueror.
here-
Woo!
I thought the biggest joke I saw here was that someone actually posted a picture that said Night Monkey, and they were like, see, perfect. Sony can make that movie instead.
Right. Let them make Night Monkey. They would make a terrible Night Monkey. Everyone would go see it, and everyone would shit on it, and they'd get all the attention that they wanted, just in the wrong way. You know what? It's going to work itself out. They're giving you something to work about, to worry about.
I actually think it's gonna be done before tomorrow, or Saturday.
I think that was Disney's outlook. They were like, look, this is the slate we have. This is what we want to do. This is how we want to move forward. This is going to be good for everybody. Let's renegotiate now before D23. They thought it was a no-brainer. They thought Sony was going to go for it. And Sony executives have proven time and time again that they don't know what they're doing. I'm going to guarantee you that this is a screw-up with Pascal. I will guarantee it.
Right now, somebody has
email
her
hack.
laptop in lockdown.
Yeah, I guarantee you that she screwed the pooch on this again, and it's amazing to me that she still has a job with that company.
Yeah, based on what you're saying there, Drew, I'm kind of surprised that there is no accountability on people in those positions where, if it is a screw up and the studios both want it to happen, and Tom Holland's unfollowing the studio that makes the movie based on it, like something has to happen there, right? Tom
Holland's dad put out hashtag Save Spider-Man.
I like the one where Marvel actually posted the hashtags that said, hey, we've done Homecoming, we've done Far From Home, what's the next one? And Tom Holland was the one that posted Homeless.
Well,
yeah, it's unfortunate, but you know what? You look at it this way. I really enjoyed Far From Home. It was my favorite Marvel movie in quite some time that wasn't, Infinity War Endgame capper to a giant, big deal. As far as a singular story, I thought it really worked. I thought the cast was great. The diverse cast of kids is like, you don't even question it. It's not forced. Everybody is a well thought out character. Even the background characters and teachers have quirks and characteristics that you can tell them apart from each other. It's just really well written as far as how it fits everything that was forced upon it from the universe into this story. And I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was top notch. It's in my top 5 Marvel movies at the moment. And for them to try to cut that off early, okay, fine, that sucks. But we're also talking about a universe where we've got Blade coming. We've got 14 different goddamn shows on Disney Plus that are going to tie in to 12 more movies in the next 30 years. And it's just like, we can do that without Spider-Man. We did it without Spider-Man before. Hey, guess what? Spider-Man can't be in the next Avengers. Wolverine can. All right? Wolverine can. We can do, X-Men versus Avengers versus X-Men or whatever they want to do. They can do whatever they want with whoever they want, not Spider-Man. I'm fine with that. I had fun with the MCU before Spider-Man was there. I'll have fun after he's gone. You lose your favorite action figure. It sucks, but you got a pile over there. Sometimes, you just got to make Mumra fight fucking Optimus Prime instead.
So I'm gonna ask Kat, what are your thoughts about the Joker coming in at a hard R?
I mean, let's face it. Everyone's thinking like Deadpool was such a great R film. Was Logan an R film?
Logan was an R film.
Logan was an R film. Everyone's thinking if they push for that R, not only could they get away with a bit more, but it's going to be something that's talked about, that this is the superhero film or the supervillain film, what have you. This is the comic book R film. So it's going to be put in a slightly different category. That's going to get some butts in the theater, let's be honest. I don't know. I'm still on the fence with the Joker. It could be good. It could be complete garbage. Honestly, I'm really hoping DC has a win here. DC needs a win. My heart's at DC, and it hurts quite a bit right now, especially with what's going on with Birds of Prey. My girls.
What's going on with them
right now? Have you seen a lot of the production art and like the costuming that they've done?
No, I just assume it's garbage.
I've just seen people. I've heard people bitching about the.
Harley looks like a 1980s baton twirler for a marching band.
I'm actually all right with that.
Wardrobe. We got stuck in the wardrobe department, and then like
something about that works for me. I'm not
halfway through. I don't understand what's going on with her. There's that's not Harley to me, and everyone's like, oh well, it's the new 52 Harley. That's not new 52 Harley.
No, okay. It's not new 52.
New 52 Harley. You can either go Suicide Squad or you can go Amanda Connor's Harley. I read both. I loved both. That's not either one, in my opinion. I do love Margot Robbie, but I don't like that art style. If they wanted to keep the whole Puddin', Daddy's Little Monster thing, they could have kept on with that and just kind of slightly updated it for this film. But I don't understand what I'm seeing right now. And I could be wrong. I'm not very optimistic. I'm very upset about it.
It's going to be another Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Well, obviously James Gunn's next film is supposed to be Suicide Squad remastered or whatever they're calling the remake, would just start over, whatever it is.
Two.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a direct sequel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, he's being very coy about it. He's saying it's a sequel, but it's not a direct sequel because half the characters aren't showing up again. This, that, and the other. Whatever.
Nothing about the first plot made any sense. So how do you follow that up? Like, your helicopter got shot down by guys without heavy weapons.
But I do want to point out that Kat said that the DC universe needs a win, and I know that Chad wanted to talk about Crisis at some point, and I think Crisis is a win no matter what already for them. They've already piqued everybody's interest in what they're going to do with the TV series. Not Drew, apparently.
No, and I tell you what, I really enjoyed the first season of Arrow, and I really enjoy also like One Tree Hill. That's the itch that those shows scratch. They're soap operas. They're not comic book shows. And when they try to do something comic booky, it's just like sometimes it's just like they don't have the budget for it. It's not those things are better served for the DC app where we're gonna get maybe some good crossover between Titans and Doom Patrol down the line. Maybe we're going to tie some of this stuff from Swamp Thing back in. That's where you build a universe where you can focus on it, where you don't have to do 32 episodes a season of will they, won't they romance with one dude doing the spin kick in the front of the end of the episode and another dude in a shadowy cloak at the end of the episode, and the mystery gets revealed. Like if you take the action sequences and the things that are cool about Arrow in a comic book sense, right? You can cut all of them together in a supercut, and it's probably about an hour over the entire series.
Wait,
Like,
an hour of Stephen and Mel doing pull-ups with his shirt off?
doing
Yes.
pull-ups with his shirt off
Yes.
is not a comic book thing.
Salmon pole.
That is a teenage romance
Yep.
thing. That is to wet your panties and keep you watching. And you know what? It works for what it is, but it
An
doesn't.
hour of him doing pull-ups with his shirt
None
off.
of that appeals to me.
Drew,
in
I
a
My
comic
money.
fan sense.
I think what you basically just said though is that the DC Universe TV series on CW is basically like an entire season of that's like the entire run of Brian Michael Bendis on anything DC at this point.
It's garbage. Yeah.
Hey, I'm okay with you saying that actually.
I liked Flash. I thought that they gave you a lot of good things in Flash in the first season when we were building up. But that's cool. But like season 2, like what are you going to run fast again? Okay, it's the same effect over and over and over again to save them on the budget. And what it does is it takes everything that I think is cool about comic book properties and basically makes it happen off panel, and it focuses on the character drama that just gets repetitive at a certain point. If you read a Flash comic and he never threw a punch, you would stop reading that book. There's not enough action going on in these shows. When they do these big crossovers, it's like, now I got to watch Supergirl. That's not going to fucking happen.
Well, see, so this is what I would tell you about that. If that's the way you feel about the entire season, don't watch the whole season. Just watch those 5 episodes and actually get an opinion based on that. Because I can tell you, I only watched 2 episodes of Supergirl last season. One of them was just to see John Cryer as Lex Luthor, and he was excellent. Which I never thought was going to happen, considering the character that he played on 2.5 Men for so many years. But to see him as Lex Luthor, as a diabolical, like insane man, was actually pretty awesome. But just the idea of the 5 episode crossover itself and who they're bringing in for that. It's basically a fanboy's dream. I mean, having Burt Ward come back as a undisclosed character. I mean, how could he play anybody other than the vice president, Dick Grayson? Or the fact that Linda Carter is going to be back. The fact that right now we're trying to figure out, Chad said it earlier, that Tom Welling will be back. The fact that I don't understand why, with all these people that they've announced to play Superman and Supergirl and all these side characters that they're bringing in, they aren't bringing back Dean Cain to actually play Superman again, even though they've got him, or why they're not bringing back Helen Slater to have her play like the,
Terry Hatcher. I had a thing for Terry Hatcher.
And there you go, Chad. I totally agree.
Terry Hatcher was the queen of my dial-up porn days. I was like, oh, Terry Hatcher. I'm going to wait a half hour to see her topless.
And they're magnificent.
They were. I don't know how they look now, but they were.
What was that
good.
movie?
I don't remember the name.
Oh my god! I gotta sign back into my Mr. Skin. Hold on. I mean, sorry.
Is that going to be the background here in a second? Is Mr. Skin?
Yeah, let's hope.
No, it's not. Let's not get age restricted today.
But compared to the
Terry
movies,
Hatcher,
Drew,
talk about a fancy pair.
there you go. At least in the early 90s. I tend to think, though, compared to the DC Universe movies, right now, I'm going to say that I truly believe that the Arrowverse has done much more good than those movies have.
Oh, I agree. It could have been so much better than it's been. My lament.
Without a doubt, you could have had Batman.
Right. My lament is that why are we doing Arrow as Batman when we could have just did Batman? Oh, we're doing Gotham. That doesn't connect. Without Batman. That's just terrible. Right. Krypton, a Superman show without Superman. Okay, let's keep doing that. Like, they did a Batman movie without Batman. It was called Catwoman, and it was fucking terrible. Stop doing these things. Like, why would you make it? I have the same argument when they're like, oh, we're going to make a Silver Sable movie and Black Cat's going to be in it. I'm like, is Spider-Man going to be in it? Because if he's not, those other characters are not interesting. That's why Venom sucked. You can't do a character that is 90% Spider-Man ripoff without putting Spider-Man in the fucking movie.
And
Like
that's
his
why I
power
think
is that he ripped off Spider-Man.
I think Sony wants. That's one of the reasons Sony wants to maintain that, because they want to be able to. They think, honestly, I mean, Tom Holland is not going to Sony.
Right. I think that I'm upset with the CW verse or the Arrowverse or whatever you call it, for having the opportunity to do more and kind of limiting themselves in what they did. Whereas like the Marvel Knights universe did a whole lot more, in my opinion, that I thought worked with the Punisher stuff, with the Daredevil and Fisk, and say what you want about
Even
Iron
as
Fist.
bad as Defenders was, it was
Good.
It was good.
Better than anything on the CW.
Now, from a nostalgic standpoint, here's what they're doing in the CW. This is exactly what I think they're going to do. They're going to follow Marvel's footprint of Endgame, because you're going to have the crossover is 2 parts. I mean, it's a ton of episodes. It's going to take they go on a break. So the first part of the story is going to be your Endgame. Or
it's going to be your Infinity War.
Infinity War, and then the second part is going to be your Endgame. And we all know that they've already canceled Arrow, so he's going to pay the ultimate sacrifice. But this just in too.
Bear Island. This just in. The Cool Surface is the movie he's talking about.
Oh, okay, cool.
Terry Hatcher, The Cool Surface.
Thank God, because I literally was gonna look it up, and then I was like, man, what happens if my screen shows? So, Brandon Roth and his wife, I forget her name. His real life wife. She plays.
Her name is Mrs. Roth.
Well, no, it's
Routh, I believe.
Routh.
Courtney Ford is her name, and
Courtney Ford Routh.
She's on the show. Both of them are leaving the series Legends, so I'm assuming everybody knows he's playing the DC Kingdom Come version of Superman. I think he's going to actually die,
as well as playing Ray Palmer still.
Yeah. And then
he was a good Superman. That movie just sucked. It wasn't his fault.
But I think
the movie actually, you know what? If the movie were actually done now, and they actually
couldn't
put it out
Kevin
today,
Spacey in the role, so it wouldn't be nearly as good.
Well, that's true. You could not. You could put Kevin Spacey in the role just to see what it would do.
Just too bad he's got to rape boys.
He keeps them locked up and tied up in their basement.
Is that why he's the best Lex Luthor?
Probably. No. I mean, maybe. Who knows?
Who played Lex Luthor on Supergirl?
What was that dude?
John Cryer, man.
John Cryer, that's right.
And John Cryer is excellent in that role.
And he's coming back.
He is. Now the question is whether or not he's coming back as, like I said, like Alexander Luthor. Because anybody that's read Crisis knows that there is a good guy Lex Luthor out there that is trying to save the multiverse.
There's always a good guy Lex Luthor out there.
The guy that played him and played the Flash, played Luthor, played the voice the Flash.
Michael Rosenbaum.
His contract is the one that's kind of taking a little bit of a.
Well, he won't shave his head.
Yeah, and but like if you listen to these guys,
it won't come back.
If you listen to these two guys, him and Tom Welling, when they do interviews and their podcasts, I mean, that show Smallville was an absolute, like, it just sounded like a frat party. The last season, they finally got him to come back, and they let him don a bald wig, and he said that it was like awesome. They would be pissing around with each other. They were drunk on the set. They were having a good time. So.
Yeah, what's her name started a sex cult.
Yeah, that one is pretty cool.
We mentioned that already, Chloe. Apparently on the podcast, they've actually talked about that too, and they're like, we don't know what the hell happened to her. But the whole Rosenbaum thing, like at this point, he's sitting there wondering why they haven't called him, because he totally could play the Flash. He could play Green Lantern. He could play Lex Luthor. Like I think he's played all of those characters. Nathan Fillion. Why haven't they called him yet to come in as Hal Jordan at this point?
Nobody's calling Nathan Fillion to do anything anymore. Have you noticed that? Like,
except for James Gunn.
His buddies will put him in things. Whedon will put him in things. Gunn will put him in things, right? But like Hollywood wants nothing to do with Nathan Fillion anymore. I always thought he was great. You know why? Because he gained 30 pounds. That's why. He's not in leading man shape. He's in like television funny character shape. He's not getting the roles that he wants, and he doesn't need the money, so he doesn't go out of his way to get these roles that he doesn't want.
He's
why
in
you see
Sean
him doing-
Astin Stranger Things shape, is what he is.
He's in better shape than that, but he is not. He's not in good shape. Like you see him, and you're like, oh, that's why they're not doing a Firefly again, because they would need to get him a personal trainer.
See,
He's in Andy on Parks and Rec shape, not Star-Lord shape.
I just started doing that diet for Chris Pratt. It sucks.
What? You're only looking at Chris Pratt when you eat?
Yeah. I hold up a
would suck.
picture of him. I put on like the soundtrack from Guardians 1. They can listen to Mousetrap. Nobody gets that reference. Okay.
I get that reference. Mouse rat.
Cat, what's going
What?
on there?
Midnighter needed to cuddle, apparently.
Aw, is Mark going to eat the cat too?
No,
Not made out of sweet potato.
this is our fur baby.
Well,
yeah,
you
that
never
was
know.
was that the
You
show
never know
that
with that guy.
you were on when he just sat there and ate potatoes the whole time?
Yes.
Like that. I mean, Mark, I love you to death, bro, but that was a little odd.
I mean, it was just like full potato. Like,
He's just gonna sit, that's what he's going to do in Baltimore. He's going to sit in the
steamable,
corner
at
of the
least.
booth and just house food. Just bring him
What
food.
he does is he just eats.
He's
Hey,
like,
if you guys are going to be in Baltimore, now I don't know how many people are watching this right now or how many people plan on following us to Comic-Con in Baltimore this October. Bring Mark something. Actually, he is obligated to eat it.
yeah, anything.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Do you have any allergies?
It doesn't matter.
Oh.
Let's just see what happens.
Pig
so
anus.
Drew Manchu is going to bring him a EpiPen.
Laced.
I will not be bringing him an EpiPen. I'm bringing him a pen, but
I'm gonna bring you pig anus and bull penis.
okay.
We can make a
You're
milkshake.
you're acting like that'll stop him from eating it.
No, he smiled. He's a sick motherfucker.
Like he
Motherfucker.
likes being able to go to the butcher and get like organs. and
Triple
stuff. Like,
cheese.
it's fine. Great.
Oh man, are we doing a Jim Cornette impression now?
That's exactly what that was.
Motherfucker.
Double cheese, double ham, motherfucker.
You comfy?
Yeah.
All right, guys. It's 12:22. We talked a lot. We had a good time. Come see us tomorrow off the rails. It's gonna get crazy. Love ya. Drew, man, say it.
Hey man, Drew Manchu, baby.
Good night.
All right. Bye, guys.
Cat, I'm sorry I was talking about rape again.